How did Eliza go from living like a wild animal to being an esteemed member of society? Well, we're about to find out. Buckle up in the comfy, because we're going to be taking you on a special Thornberry adventure. Before we get started, let's meet the main characters. For starters, we have Eliza, the main character of the series. She's a little girl with the magical ability to talk to animals as well as humans. But don't tell her secret, or her powers will go away forever. Next, we have Debbie, Eliza's older sister and the angsty one of the family. Debbie wants to be a part of the Thornberry family about as much as snails love salt. Yeah, it's that bad. Moving on, we have Donnie, a little feral boy the Thornberrys found in the jungle a while ago. He's a hoot and a holler within himself, running around and not speaking any language. Their parents are Nigel and Marianne, two animal researchers who make a TV animal documentary series as well. And that's about all the main characters you'll need to know to get started. Our first episode, Flood Warning, begins with the Thornberry family hanging out in the savannah in search of recording some feline action. More specifically, lions in their natural habitat. After spending 3 days there, they realize that their shot is missing one thing: a singular lion. For some reason, they haven't been able to get one on film yet. While pondering what they should do, Debbie emphasizes her want to begin learning to drive since she's freshly 16. At first, her parents deny her, after a long tangent about how it isn't fair that she isn't growing up normally, but they don't want her to drive their weird-ass RV-looking thing. Feeling bad about Debbie not having access to a normal vehicle like other kids her age, her parents finally gave in. This proves to be a horrible idea though, when Debbie quickly crashes the vehicle into a canyon that then gets filled with water, leaving the RV to flow down the river without the Thornberrys. The family decides to camp out for the night using their survival gear, as it was getting too late to search for their vehicle that day. In the middle of the night, Eliza wakes up and she's been itching to talk to some lions. She goes on her mini journey, not knowing, even though Darwin has been telling her the entire episode, that lions would not be nice creatures to talk to, as they have very predatory behaviors. When Eliza runs into a male lion, she distracts him by running through some thorn brush, but the female lions aren't as dumb. They explain to Eliza that they will be hunting her shortly, but are strayed when Eliza claims that she wants to hunt with them, not be hunted by them. While trying to prove to the lioness that she's serious, she pretends to hunt her sister. Darwin and Donnie show up to try and help Eliza, assuming she's being taken by the lions, and the four run away together. After being cornered by all three of the lions, the kids are barely saved by another incoming flood. Their parents find them and invite them onto their boat. The Thornberrys float down the river and eventually find their RV, agreeing to go eat at a diner, leaving the savannah behind. Eliza and Darwin get into it deep in the jungle in this next episode. Dinner with Darwin. Eliza is cliff jumping while Darwin is sitting and looking at the rocks. He ends up finding a super cool rock, more like a crystal, but I don't think they know what that is. He wants Eliza to look at it, but she completely ignores him. He gets upset and the two get in a quarrel, with Eliza telling Darwin he isn't even a real animal due to him never doing fun things with her, and always acting like a nerd. Darwin takes this to heart and leaves Eliza, going off into the jungle, claiming he'll just be in his natural habitat from now on. Eliza goes back to the RV, assuming that Darwin wasn't serious, and invites Donnie to go cliff jumping with her instead. That night at dinner, Eliza begins to panic when Darwin is nowhere to be found. She's sure that something is wrong, but her parents insist that he'll either come back that night or in the morning. Meanwhile that day, Eliza's parents, Nigel and Marianne, stumble across an ancient civilization tribe that they believe has not been reached by the outside world in centuries. Nigel is incredibly insistent that they must not connect with the tribe for them to stay pure and unknowing of the outside world, as is their choice. Darwin's perspective throughout this episode isn't great. Upon being himself, he has proven time and time again that he is unable to survive out in the wild, not finding a good place to sleep, not finding any food, and low-key being miserable all by himself. He eventually finds himself in the same tribe that Nigel and Marianne had found, eating all of their food. He gets concerned though when they keep feeding him food and refuse to let him leave. The next day, with no return from Darwin, the Thornberrys go out in search of him, only to find that he's been taken to a large boiling pot in the middle of the tribe. Eliza Tarzans her way into the food ceremony, saving Darwin from a near-death experience. The two apologize to each other and are happy to be family once more. The episode ends with Nigel and Marianne apologizing to the tribe for infiltrating their space, only for them to find out that the tribe does have access to electronics, such as gaming devices, a computer, and even phones. They choose to continue to live primitively because it's what they enjoy, but they emphasize not wanting to fall behind the rest of the world because of it. Talk about plot twists. The Thornberrys are still in the jungle, but this time something seems to be wrong with the animals that live there. For some reason, they keep witnessing a bunch of animals claiming that something wrong is happening within the forest, and they seem to be running away from said thing. Eliza, Darwin, and Donnie set off to figure out who is deforesting the jungle, while their parents go off to inform the Brazil park rangers of what they've been witnessing. Upon Eliza's investigation, she finds that the people behind the destruction are Kip and Biederman. The two seem to know the Thornberrys, as they seem to recognize each other as enemies. The two are using their deforesting machine to make back scratchers that say "We heart the rainforest" on them. How ironic. Eliza decides to band together with a bunch of animals to crash their machine. The episode ends with Eliza having a newfound bond with the jungle animals, as the group bonds over their combined hatred for the scary men. Our next episode, Lost and Foundation, begins with Nigel and Marianne getting ready for their nature documentary event. Due to them trying trying to impress the other researchers there, they decide to pull out all of the stops, baby polar bear footage. While they have their camera out, they begin showing the girls videos of them when they were younger in the bath, much to their horror. The girls come up with a plan to destroy the footage while their parents are gone, due to it being incredibly embarrassing in the first place. But when they go to find the tape, they find polar bears instead, meaning their parents took the wrong role and will be presenting their baby bath videos to the researchers instead. The girls take Donnie and Darwin on a long journey through the forest, hoping to catch up to their parents before it's too late. But their efforts seem futile when Eliza realizes that the presentation is at 6 instead of 7, and they have several more miles to go. Eliza makes the executive decision to take a shortcut to the event to make it in time, which ends up working out in their favor. The girls can swap them out just in time, but Eliza forgets to take the whole role away, leaving them to still play a smidge of their childhood shows. Our next episode, The Great Bangaboo, begins in Sabah, Borneo, Indonesia, more specifically at their Fates Festival. Eliza's parents bid the kids farewell for the day while they go on their errands. As soon as they leave, Debbie begins calling Eliza an oddball, weird, etc. And while Eliza is normally used to the verbal abuse brought upon by her older sister, for some reason it sticks with her this time. Assuming that no other human will ever have her gift and that she'll be alone in that way forever. However, hope begins to bloom in the depths of her heart when she sees an act going on later that day for the Great Bangaboo, a man who can supposedly talk to animals. She and Darwin set off to watch his show, but the line to get in is far too long. Eliza takes in the help of a rat, a dog with 3 legs, and a cat with an eye patch to secretly get her into the establishment without having to deal with anybody barging in front of her. She gets such good access that she's able to see the whole set, and the whole lie. The Great Bangaboo pretends to talk to a horse, but is just using tricks behind the stage to make it look entertaining for those watching in the audience. Eliza goes backstage to yell at him for getting her hopes up. She learns that the Bangaboo is just some random American from Chicago who claims to be a great entertainer. And while he overall isn't helpful, he does teach Eliza valuable life lessons. We're all oddballs, every single one of us.
We're all oddballs, every one of us. Trust me, I've traveled the world and I know.
This sits nicely with Eliza, especially after rekindling with her odd group of animal friends that she made throughout the day on her side quest journeys. The episode ends with the Thornberrys witnessing her sister in a whole lot more literal trouble than Eliza faced all day. Somehow accidentally became a part of the triplet acrobatics routine. The Thornberrys are in the jungle this time and born to be wild. Their adventure begins once Eliza's parents notice a furry necklace that she got from the local market. Nigel begins fanboying immediately, as the hair belongs to a rare hairy rhino that he's been trying to track his entire life. Nigel is insistent that, come the morning, he will be off attempting to track it once more since it lives nearby. Eliza, determined to make her father's dream become a reality, decides to go off on her own way to try and find it before he does, for she asks the rhino if her father can meet him. Once she meets him, however, she finds that the rhino is incredibly shy and kind. She doesn't want her father to film the rhino because that would cause many other researchers to come try and find the rhino as well. Eliza attempts to hide the rhino, but her attempts at camouflage are useless. She tried putting the rhino in the comfy, dumb misplaced, but okay girl, go off. Anyways, Nigel eventually finds the rhino and is awestruck. This is when he begins to explain to Eliza that they can never record the rhino and that fighting him will just be his little secret accomplishment. Eliza is beyond relieved that she didn't have to fight for the rhino's privacy, and she grows an even deeper respect for her father when he tells her to take the rhino away for him to distract whatever humans may be coming into the forest. Chimp off the old block introduces Eliza to the Congo and, more importantly, a tribe of chimps. Darwin tries to warn her that she will not be able to fit into the chimp way of life, but she refuses, insisting that because she can talk to animals that she'll be 100% fine when it comes to bonding with other chimps. This is not the case. Immediately upon entering the group of chimps, Eliza begins embarrassing herself, much to Darwin's horror. He tries his best to tell Eliza that she can't act like a human around them and that she must obey the hierarchy rules, but she ignores him, continuously getting him in trouble. He teaches Eliza some basic body language phrases, but she accidentally sets off danger alarms throughout their ranks. At first, the leader chimp is incredibly angry with her for the false alarm, but then a leopard shows up. Eliza is praised for helping them prepare for the danger, and she is then allowed to leave calmly with Darwin, instead of running for her life due to her preposterous attempt at fitting in with the chimps. Dancing with dingoes begins with Eliza off in the desert. She decides to befriend some dingoes for fun, training with them before their hunt. Regular Eliza stuff. Only this time, Debbie spies on her and witnesses her talking to the animals in action. Her suspicions are proving correct when the dingoes go after Debbie for food and Eliza stops them. It's shown that from other people's POV, whenever Eliza talks to animals, she speaks in the respective animal's language that she's talking to. So she was growling and barking like a dingo whenever she wanted to save her sister from them. Debbie immediately runs to tell their parents about Eliza's weird capability, which frightens Eliza greatly. She hasn't told anyone about her ability because she's worried that people will find her weird and do strange experiments on her because of it. The dingoes notice how distraught Eliza is about the situation, so they take her to another human that they believe can help her. Upon talking to said human, she learned that the humans of their tribe and the dingoes have had an unspoken allyship for generations, each helping the other out when needed. He tells Eliza to have the dingoes bring her sister to their rock that night, and he may be able to fix the situation. Once there, Debbie is lured into a strange dream game, with all of the family turning into animals, Eliza being turned into a dingo. Eliza takes her back to the convy, leaving her to wake up thinking that everything that happened that day must have just been part of her strange dream. We meet yet another documentary family in this next episode, Clash of the Tutons, but we quickly find that the strange, rich family is anything but true explorers. Things begin to seem fishy when Nigel and Marianne notice that their documentaries seem to feature animals that wouldn't normally be fighting aggressively, hating on one another. They question them, but are told that there are millions of animals and some are just destined to feel more aggressive than others. They take this at face value and choose to believe them even though they still think it's weird. Eliza, on the other hand, finds her evidence. When she's off playing with a Tutons boy, she notices that one of the animals is quick to run in fear whenever they notice him, insisting that they will not be helping him in his time of danger. Eliza confronts the boy, who admits that his parents have been capturing different species of animals and forcing them to fight against each other. This horrifies Eliza, but before she can begin to alarm her parents, an avalanche begins. She is swept back to the campsite along with Darwin and the boy, thoroughly destroying the Tutons' strange fighting cage production in the process. The episode ends with the Thornberrys happily going their separate ways, and the Tutons processing that not only is their new form of content destroyed, but that even with their new content, they will never beat the Thornberrys when it comes to the eyes of the Research Foundation. Our next episode, Darwin Plays the Palace, begins with Darwin getting snatched up by our old foes Kip and Beardman. They take a scared Darwin to the palace where they sell him for some gold pieces. They chose Darwin because of the tricks they saw him doing while he and Eliza were out harvesting apricots, and figured he'd be a wonderful prize for the prince. Eliza, knowing that her friend wouldn't just wander off, becomes incredibly worried and begins her search. She eventually stumbles upon Kip and Beardman, noticing that they're acting strange. After a brief conversation, it doesn't take long for them to accidentally spill the beans about her missing friend. Eliza goes to the palace to retrieve him, but she is chased away by the guards. She chooses to hide herself in a modest outfit and attempts to tell the prince of her stolen friend. The prince is unamused by her cries for help, and it seems as though Darwin is too. Eliza makes her way over to Darwin's break room and realizes that the fame and fortune of being Royal Prince's entertainment have changed her friend completely. He talks and acts like a snob, ignoring Eliza's request to come back home and emphasizing his happiness in the palace. Eliza sadly leaves her friend behind, confused as to how she lost him so suddenly, when all of a sudden, she is captured by the palace guards after her disguise falls off. They throw her into the dungeon, where she meets yet another chimp. He tells Eliza that once the prince is bored with the chimp's tricks, they get fed to the royal cobra. Horrified, Eliza, the new chimp, and Darwin, after he's alerted to the situation, escape the palace and the clutches of the cobra, back into the loving arms of the Thornberry family. The last episode of Season 2 highlights just how Eliza got her magical ability to talk to animals, and it didn't come easily. We're shown a younger version of Eliza, one where she's unable to communicate with animals. She strays from her family's path and stumbles upon a wildebeest that is trapped in a bear trap. She saves him, and he turns into a tribal man. He explains to Eliza that he was cursed to be turned into an animal because he didn't respect animals enough when he was part of his tribe. The only way he would be freed of this curse is if another human cared enough about him to save him, but he assumed nobody ever would help him since he took the appearance of an ugly, smelly animal. Eliza explains to the man that she loves animals and would never leave one to suffer a grave fate. Because of her kind deed, the man decides to gift Eliza with one wish of her choosing. She chooses to be able to talk to animals. This is when she first meets Darwin. The two hang out together, and she invites him to come on the Thornberry travels with her and her family. Darwin happily agrees, and is even happier when he learns about what clothes are. Unfortunately for Eliza, when she goes back to her family to introduce them to Darwin, she can't speak regular human language anymore. The only thing that comes out of her mouth is animal noises. Panicked, Eliza and Darwin leave to track down the tribal man once more. When she finds him, she explains what happened, and he isn't surprised. She can only choose one: talk to animals or talk to humans. Sad, Eliza chooses humans as she doesn't see a life worth living if she's unable to talk to her fellow humans ever again. After her decision, Darwin slips off the side of a cliff. Eliza quickly goes to the rescue, but the tribal man is the true hero. It's here that he sees for the first time just how much Eliza truly cares about animals. He then swallows his doubts and informs her that there's a spell that could allow her to talk to both. He's just unsure if he can do it. It's either it works or it makes her grow a second head. But with just now finding Darwin, her best friend, and knowing of the wonderful possibilities that talking to animals has to offer her in her life, Eliza chooses to try. And with that, the Troubleman can cast the spell, granting Eliza the ability to talk to animals and humans for the rest of her days. The episode ends with her and Darwin heading back to the Thornberrys, living happily ever after from here on out. We see a semi-decent side of Debbie in this next episode, Dear Diary, after Donnie rips up some pages out of Debbie's diary after she just told him not to go through it, I might add. Eliza decides to do the good sister thing and put the diary back together for her. Her wandering eyes happen to read her name, and upon further investigation, she finds that Debbie had called her a geek, and more of an embarrassment rather than a sister. Understandably, this deeply hurts Eliza, but she tries to play it cool. That is, until Debbie comes back and finds the destruction that has occurred, and Eliza holding her diary. She immediately goes in on Eliza about how she knows she's not allowed to read her diary, and she refuses to hear Eliza out about Donnie. Eliza leaves the convy with Darwin and Donnie, blindly angry with her sister. The three end up wandering too far and get stuck in a cave. Because Donnie is essentially a freak of nature, he's able to climb out and get Debbie to come to the rescue. And it's during her bravery that she and Eliza hash it out. Debbie explains to Eliza that while she may have written nasty things about her that day, that doesn't mean that that's how she feels towards her. She then proceeds to open up some other pages from the diary to show Eliza that some days she has fun with her sister. Eliza understands that the kids can find their way out of the cave after watching some bats escape from above. The episode ends with the two sisters having a great understanding of each other. Our next episode, Bogged Down, follows Eliza and her father Nigel on their separate side quest. Well, with Darwin too, he never strays too far from Eliza. The three of them go off deep into the mud, where Nigel hopes to capture video of several different species. While on their journey, he accidentally gets stung by a poisonous fish. Eliza, not knowing what else to do, races back into the bog to find the antidote that she had accidentally left behind earlier in the episode. After facing many foes, such as alligators and mischievous talking lemurs, she finds the antidote and can save her father. The episode ends with Eliza, Nigel, and Darwin finding their way back into the Comfy, where they reunite with Marianne and the other children. Eliza and Debbie's constant bickering reaches its climax in our next episode, A Pack of Thornberries. The two won't stop and will do anything in their power to keep jabbing at one another. While apart, it's shown that Debbie has been mailed a different brochure by her grandmother, who doesn't see the life on the road fit for the young girls as they age. All of the brochures are for Debbie to go to a private boarding school so that she can have a sense of normalcy in her life. Shockingly, Debbie has hardly ever taken notice of these schools or shown any interest in them whatsoever. Eliza mocks her, claiming that even if Debbie were to apply, she wouldn't get in, changing the game completely for Debbie. Debbie begins to apply because of this, taking it seriously for the first time ever and landing herself an interview with the woman-only school dean. Eliza is concerned with this. Doing her own little Eliza activities, she ends up becoming friends with a pack of nearby wolves. It's here that she begins complaining about her sister's relationships. She even goes to the lengths of taking one of the lone wolves out of his pack for him to hunt for himself, as she is also determined that she could live without her sister as well. Later in the episode, a park ranger rides up to Eliza and Nigel, telling the two of them that he believes a rogue wolf has eaten a nearby sheep and that if he finds the wolf that did it, he will need to get rid of them. Seems a bit harsh, but go off, I guess. Eliza panicked, went to find her lone wolf friend. Once she does, she learns that he wasn't the culprit, and he and she both agree that he should head back to his pack. Meanwhile, Debbie surprisingly rocks her interview, impressing the school panel with her overall knowledge in regards to the animal kingdom, endangered species, and crystal trades. She and her mother come back from school to find that Nigel has gone to search for the supposed sheep-wolf killer. Immediately after giving her wolf friend advice, Eliza gets attacked by a wild grizzly bear, also the real culprit that killed the sheep. Thankfully, Eliza's wolf family comes to the rescue, saving Eliza from her death, allowing her to rekindle with her pack, the Thornberrys. The Thornberrys are politely visiting a Day of the Dead ceremony to learn more about the practice. Eliza meets a young girl who tells Eliza about the wondrous celebration involving the respect and celebration that occurs each year for their ancestors who have passed. Eliza is moved by this, and while at the ceremony, she notices a grave that doesn't have anything on it. It looks neglected even. Eliza decides to clean it up, placing down some flowers and wiping off the cobwebs. Afterwards, a large gust of wind swoops up her hair, and the young girl that she was talking to is amazed by this, certain that one of Eliza's ancestors must be greeting her. Throughout the episode, as different scenarios unfold, a mysterious woman continues to help Eliza out, warning her when it will rain and instructing her to follow the flow of the wind if she needs to know what direction to go in. She even tells Eliza where her family members are to ensure her safety in traveling back to them. It's not until the end of the episode that it's revealed that the mysterious woman who has been helping her the entire time was the ghost from the grave Eliza had thoroughly respected. Starting us off in the Borneo jungle where Donnie was first found, Nigel and Marianne are determined to celebrate Donnie's birthday while simultaneously trying to help rescue orangutans from poachers. Donnie's origin begins with Nigel and Marianne heading into the city to check if there have been any updates on Donnie's biological parents. It's not like they want to get rid of him, they're just wondering if anyone has come forward. The foster care worker doesn't have any updates for them and is happy to allow them to continue being Donnie's official foster parents. This excites the two, happy that they can continue to live with Donnie. The two of them head off to the local nature preserve, where they hope to film some orangutans. However, the park ranger explains that they had just released their last one, and that poachers were spotted in the area shortly after the release, much to the park's dismay. Nigel and Marianne decide to make it their mission to track down the stray orangutan, hopefully in time for no harm to come to it. Meanwhile, they have instructed Eliza and Debbie to clean up the convies so that it looks nice for Marianne's mother, who Nigel decided to invite to Donnie's birthday party without telling her. Debbie strikes a deal with Eliza to take Donnie out into the forest to get him out of her hair, while she finishes up her cleaning tasks. At first, Eliza is happy about this deal, but she quickly realizes that Donnie has way more to handle throughout long periods than she's used to. He essentially ruins her day, being obnoxious and ruining her chances of finding the orangutans. He even leads a large alligator to them, almost killing their new monkey friends in the process. Eliza gets so fed up, in fact, that she shuns him away, telling him that she'll never take him out into the wild again if he's always always going to be acting this way. This ruins Donnie, making him so upset that he leaves Eliza and runs into the forest. While all of this is going down, Marianne's mother shows up with only Debbie at the convy, and Marianne accidentally breaks her wrist while adventuring with Nigel. She lies to him for some reason, claiming that it was only a sprain. She hides it behind, wanting to look for the orangutans, but a part of me assumes she wants nothing to do with her mother for some reason. Starting where we left off, Eliza is incredibly worried about Donnie. She and Darwin head deeper and deeper into the jungle in hopes of finding him. They find some remnants of him, a sock, and some animals here and there saying that they've seen him, but they have yet to catch a glimpse of the reckless little thing. Eliza eventually finds a baby orangutan who seems to be abandoned by its mother, with her being nowhere to be found or in a large tree nest that they had slept in the night before. Eliza decides that she'll take care of the baby until the mother is found. Eliza is also hoping that once his mother is found that they can ask for help in finding Donnie, especially if he has been taken up by the orangutans like he was when he was a baby. Meanwhile, Nigel and Marianne get themselves swept away in a river. They see their first orangutan, but lose sight of it fairly quickly. In hopes of getting closer to the animal again, they float the river, getting stuck in fast rapids along the way. The two find a cave that they decide to camp out in for the night, assuming their children are safe at home with their grandmother. Little do they know that Debbie and their grandmother decided to go on their side quest to find out where the heck everyone else is, only to be captured by a tribe and led to their boiling deaths. Part 3 begins with an interesting plot twist. Somehow, a fire has sprung throughout the jungle, and the animals of the land assume, with great conviction, that the culprit is Donnie. I mean, why wouldn't they? He's been wreaking havoc throughout their domain since the day that they got there. Eliza tries to protect her brother from their accusations, but her attempts seem to be futile. Thankfully, before the animals can take their Donnie frustrations out on Eliza, they are interrupted by her monkey friends that she made in the beginning parts of this series. The monkeys explain to the animals that while Donnie may not be their favorite jungle guest they've ever had, he didn't start a fire. The monkeys saw a bolt of lightning cause it. Due to the monkeys' protection, the animals slowly begin to believe Eliza, taking her advice on the quickest route to the river. Meanwhile, Grandma Thornberry doesn't see anything wrong with what's currently happening with the tribe, assuming that they're just bringing the two of them to their dinner rather than eating them, which honestly makes more sense than the horrors that Debbie has been trying to feed her. Grandma Thornberry asks the tribe about their family, to which they only recognize Donnie when he was a baby. They tell the couple that he will be in a tree that looks like a ladder. It's at this tree that Eliza, their parents, Debbie, and their grandmother all coincidentally meet up. The different groups exchange what they've come to learn of Donnie's disappearance, and it dawns on all of them, if Donnie does have two parents near here, then they may have to give him up for good. The episode ends with them glimpsing Donnie for a brief moment, but then him being swooped away by an orangutan in order to avoid the growing fires. The Thornberry family eventually makes it to the tribe that at one point fostered Donnie in search of him. It's here that they meet the old medicine lady who tells them the tale of Donnie's upbringing. Essentially, two researchers stumbled upon them one day, and they had such a strong love for animals that they could rival the Thornberrys easily. They fell in love with the orangutans and raised their small boy alongside them, taking trips to the village and researching their little hearts out. They grew so fond of the orangutans that they fought for them when the poachers came. The two of them gave their lives to save the mother and the baby orangutans that they had grown fond of. Out of respect and care and the goodness of their hearts, the orangutans decided to take Donnie in as one of their own in honor of his parents. When the Thornberrys made their way into their jungle, the orangutans witnessed how good they were with animals and decided to give Donnie to them in hopes that they could raise him properly as a human. The Thornberrys took him, and well, the rest is history. Once her story is finished, the Thornberrys are teary-eyed. They all get to sign to keep Donnie for good, knowing now that he can officially stay with them forever. The medicine woman even hands Nigel and Marianne a photo of Donnie's parents, and the two recognize them. They had met the couple long ago in this very jungle. Sealing Donnie's fate further, the Thornberrys are proud to call him one of their own. Eliza has to deal with her annoying cousin. In our next episode, Tyler Tucker, I presume. Tyler Tucker visits the Thornberrys every so often, and it's his time to come around again. He's set to stay with them for 4 weeks, but honestly, he'll probably die before then if he keeps acting up. Eliza constantly has to tell him how not to get himself into trouble, but he still doesn't listen. He begins swimming in the lake whenever she warns him of alligators. Newsflash, there were some alligators in there. And he takes off with the boat the second Nigel and Marianne are out of eyesight, getting them stuck in the middle of the river. Because of his shenanigans, they put the Thornberry kids in danger. As they begin to try and figure out how to get to shore, they begin to get attacked by hippos and alligators. Thankfully, Eliza can manipulate the situation. She tells the hippos that the alligators seem to want Tucker more, allowing them enough time to escape while the two beasts fight each other. Upon reaching the shore, Tucker apologizes for all that he's done and emphasizes that he knows they must want to send him home due to his being a freak. Eliza stands up to him though. After everything he's done on this trip, she still sees a good side to him. She tells her parents that he did great fending off the beasts, and that he should be allowed to stay his full allotted 4 weeks. The episode ends with Tucker entering the convy for the first time, much to Debbie's horror as she hasn't drawn her boundary lines yet. A good point is brought up in the next episode. Is it selfish of Nigel and Marianne to make their children travel with them consistently? In my personal opinion, no, it isn't. The episode begins with the Thornberrys visiting Cornelia and Radcliffe, Nigel's mother and father. The convy rolls up to a castle-like house, which awes Debbie. Everything about Cornelia awes Debbie. The clothes, the servants, the glam. Eliza is not as impressed, and neither is her mother, Marianne. Cornelia constantly tells Marianne and Nigel that they aren't raising their kids right, which only begins to set in when she asks them if Eliza has any other friends other than her pet monkey, to which they have nothing to say, because, well, she doesn't. All they see is their weirdo daughter speaking in monkey languages all day with no other outside conversations. The only reason why the Thornberrys are visiting Nigel's family is because of a conference that the two are supposed to attend. Oh, and Cornelia drops that Nigel should be receiving an offer to be a professor of animal habits at the University of Oxford. Nigel and Marianne go off on their own. They have a private conversation on whether or not they should take the offer if it indeed presents itself. They talk about the fact that while they chose this life for themselves, their girls didn't get to choose. They just have been forced to follow along since they were babies. Once everyone is back at the house, Eliza expresses much concern about some birds being eaten. Marianne instructs Debbie to look after her sister, while Cornelia states that the job of the oldest sister is not to be the parent of the younger siblings, which cuts deep. Nigel and Radcliffe side with Eliza, having everyone follow them into the convy for them to go rescue the birds. Once up there, it gets dropped that they may be staying there because Nigel was called by Oxford and officially has a job offer. Debbie is ecstatic, having a long argument with her mother before the news dropped about how badly she wishes she had a normal life. Eliza is distraught, so distraught that while the rest of them stand outside in the rain, she begins to run away. The Thornberry family finds Eliza after she reunites the Eagle family. She's still upset about the recent proposition, but she follows along with them without a choice in the matter. Nigel is supposed to be knighted by the Queen, so the whole family takes a 14-hour car ride to London, where the ceremony takes place. It's here that Nigel tells his mother that he will not be taking the Oxford offer, much to the horror and Debbie's. Eliza and Darwin are happy to stay together, even though Darwin would rather live in the city since he's such a civilized chimp, but they are grateful regardless. Here we have our first official Thornberrys movie. The adventure begins in the heart of Africa. Nigel and Marianne intend to record some eclipse footage and would like the girls to stay put in the convy, but as you know, that's easier said than done. Nigel's mother Cornelia is visiting, and she seems much more equipped for the outside life than Marianne's mother, who thought tribesmen were going to eat her in the previous episode. With Cornelia with them, you'd think that it would make their lives easier, but this seems to be the opposite of the case, specifically for Eliza and Darwin. Eliza goes off and talks to the animals as per usual, but while interacting with some cheetahs, one of the babies named Tally gets taken by poachers. Eliza is incredibly upset by this, frantically searching and essentially having an episode even when back with her family about it. Cornelia thinks Eliza is going crazy due to being exposed to the wilderness too much and insists that she needs to be sent away to an all-girls British boarding school for her to be normal again. And at first, Eliza's parents disagree, especially Marianne. You know how mother-in-laws can be, but they eventually give in. Eliza is incredibly distraught by this, but not nearly as upset as Darwin, who, when he found out that he could not follow her, had a meltdown. Eliza makes her way to the school, wondering why her suitcase is suddenly 20 pounds heavier. She opens it up and Darwin reveals himself. He stowed away to England so that the two of them wouldn't have to be separated. But after just one night there, he is found. The principal tells Eliza that she will be shipping Darwin back home to the Thornberrys. Instead of taking this hit while lying down, Eliza makes the big girl decision to pull a Darwin and stow away on his bus ride back to Africa. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Debbie is growing frustrated with her missed opportunity. She's been trying to get out of the commune life since forever, and yet Eliza has no wish to escape their wilderness prison and instead was ungrateful when she was told to leave. Debbie's thoughts are rudely interrupted by none other than Cornelia and Radcliffe, her husband and Nigel's father, skydiving down to the convy. They were alerted that Eliza had run away from the school and would like to send her back as soon as she returns home, in time for her parents not to find out, as they would get frustrated with Cornelia for ever making Eliza leave in the first place. Debbie is all for this plan, and when Eliza does turn up, the two of them get into an argument about Eliza's ungratefulness in general in regards to the situation. Eliza runs away again after grabbing some things with Debbie quickly following her, hijacking her grandparents' British motorcycle. Upon waking up, their grandparents panic and call Nigel and Marianne, as they need to alert them of their child's disappearance. Little does everyone know that the reason Eliza is so flabbergasted is that the poachers have hit again. Upon arriving back in Africa, Eliza saw yet another animal, this time a rhino, that had been hunted by the same poachers that she saw poach Tally. Thankfully, a kind couple shows up to help the rhino and call the authorities. Eliza rushed back to the convy to find information on where the poachers would be next, but got really interrupted by Debbie and is now running away from her and towards the poachers. This is when it hits her. The whole reason the poachers are super active right now is because every solar eclipse, all of the elephants gather in the canyon oasis to hang out instead of their usual jungle habitats. The poachers are going to line the canyon with explosives to startle the elephants, causing a stampede, resulting in all of them running into a large electrified gate. Upon realizing this, Eliza, Darwin, and Donnie, who follow the two, wind up at the nice couple's RV that had helped them previously that day. They ask the two to call her parents, and the radio is broken. Donnie then tries to get into their RV, which they both panic about, shutting their window and instructing the children to sleep outside, and that they'll find their parents in the morning. When the three of them wake up, Eliza cannot find Donnie. She knocks on their door, and Donnie runs out. Eliza goes into the RV and finds a lot of horrifying things. Rhino horns, animal skins, a million cameras, and weapons. He even notices a cage. Inside it is Tally. The nice couple were the poachers the entire time. Before the poachers can do any real damage to Eliza, Debbie comes into the clearing, demanding that Eliza come with her. Poachers capture Debbie and threaten to throw her off the cliff nearby if Eliza doesn't tell them how on earth she found out about the poachers' master plan, as nobody has exposed it to the outside world. Reluctantly, Eliza shares her secret, telling them that it's because she can talk to the animals. A huge gust of magical wind engulfs Eliza and causes the environment around her to essentially become a windstorm, blowing the poachers away from her sister. When the magic is finished, she can sadly no longer talk to animals. The children and Darwin run away, and Eliza finally explains to Debbie all that has been happening to her over the past couple of months. Debbie is amazed but happy that she finally understands why her little sister always acts so freaky. The group heads to the Elephant Lounge and is horrified once they see the extent of damage that will be caused if the poachers get away with their master plan. Meanwhile, Nigel, Marianne, and the grandparents also notice what's happening, still without knowing where the children are. The adults try to cut the explosive wire, but are only successful in cutting one. The rest go off and the elephants begin running. Eliza jumps on top of the elephant and slowly jumps to the first elephant in the pack. Once there, she throws her necklace at the gate, showing the elephants that it's electrified. Unfortunately, after this occurs, the elephants continue to run when another explosion goes off. Thinking quickly on her feet, Eliza nudges the elephant behind its right ear, which she had been taught would cause the elephant to roar. And it works. Before all is well though, the male poacher snatches Eliza up onto his helicopter ladder and drops her into the treacherous, choppy river below. It's here that she almost drowns. Upon making it to the shore, she sees the tribesman who gave her her powers in the first place. He congratulates Eliza on her ability to save animals, and decides to give her her powers once more, even though she broke her promise. She questions how much they can rely on Debbie not to tell her secret, so Eliza does something that will surely shut Debbie up for the rest of their lives. She made a deal with him that if Debbie were to ever tell her secret, then Debbie herself would turn into a baboon, her least favorite animal. The movie ends with the elephants thanking Eliza, and the family reuniting once more. Oh, and Eliza brings Tally back to his mother, a happy full circle moment. An interesting character is introduced in this next episode, the Wild Snubberry. It all begins when Nigel and Marianne receive an emergency message from the research organization. The Thornberrys have been tasked with taking care of a male pop star named Shane G. Eliza and Debbie are both excited, which is strange because Eliza normally doesn't get excited about boys. Upon meeting the boy, Eliza is impressed as he seems to care about the environment. The whole reason he's visiting the Thornberrys is that he wants to co-host some of Nigel's documentaries, and so that he can raise wilderness awareness among his fans. Debbie also takes an interest in the new boy, as he's an exciting person to have around. Whenever the three of them go off together, Shane keeps spreading misinformation about the animal, which begins to irk Eliza. He also gets Debbie to continuously film him doing stupid things, like feeding a baby bear cub a bag of chips, causing the mother to come out soon after. Thankfully, Eliza can beg the bear to spare Shane's life, but even that, Shane tries to take the credit for. He claimed that he stared down a wild bear. While Eliza tries to explain that he did nothing of the sort, he already begins being a nuisance again, thinking he can now stare down a wild wolverine. His encounter with the wolverine causes many arguments, and also a deer stampede, leaving all of the children to find refuge on top of the convey. Eliza and him get into a heated argument about his image and how he doesn't seem to care about the wilderness at all, but even after their little argument, he proves time and time again that no matter what, he will be staying with the Thornberrys for a month, as he will commit to what he signed up for. Shane tries telling Eliza that while he might not be a wilderness snob like her, he does genuinely care. Eliza leaves the conversation upset, telling Darwin what happened, but he too thinks Eliza is a wilderness snob, insinuating that she mansplains lots of things to people all the time, not just Shane. The episode ends with Darwin questioning Eliza's liking of this boy, even when she's frustrated, since Eliza won't stop looking at him and blushing even after their heated argument. And just like that, we have our last Thornberry episode, Eliza Unplugged, begins with their visit, and Shane figures out all that he'll have to do once he returns to the regular world. He's seen talking on the phone over and over again, arranging meetings and set times and talking to his manager. Debbie approaches Eliza, as it's clear Eliza has a massive crush on Shane, and that she has had for a while. She warns Eliza that it's now or never, and that if she's unable to, she'll be missing out on a potential love opportunity. Heeding her sister's warning, Eliza approaches Shane shyly, asking him if he'd like to go on a walk with her down to a nice beach that she had found. Unfortunately, not only does Shane not want to go on the walk with her, but he's also super rude about it. He yells at Eliza, saying he's tired of everyone expecting something out of him when he has nothing left to give. He also makes fun of her passion of the wilderness, which is really unlike him since he's been hanging out with them since he got there. Eliza is hurt by his words, but upon having some alone time with Darwin, she concludes that she doesn't deserve to be talked that way, even if it is by the boy she's been crushing on. Eliza storms back to the convey to give Shane a piece of her mind, but he's nowhere to be found. Shane left a note on the ground informing the Thornberrys that he's run away. He's not very good at hiding though. Well, not most people have the ability to talk to animals anyway, so how is he supposed to know how easily Eliza would be able to find him when she's able to talk to a bald eagle? Anyways, he's easily found at the beach Eliza had mentioned to him earlier. Eliza heads down to ask if he's okay, to which he explains himself. He isn't ready to go back to the real world, where he has to act the part and be this big pop star. He's enjoyed his time with Eliza and her family, and he's finally being able to be himself for what feels like the first time in his life. Eliza takes this opportunity to confess her feelings, but right when she's about to, a huge wave crashes up onto them. Their little beach is being dangerously overrun by water, and the only way up is to climb. Eliza and Shane desperately attempt the climb, but the rope snaps. Shane can lasso the rope onto a higher cliff where they rest for a brief moment before Debbie realizes what's happening. She attempts to help them by attaching the rope to a tree on the land, but the knot comes undone. Desperate to save her sister and Shane, Debbie grabs onto the falling rope, flinging her own body halfway off the cliff. The only reason they all three didn't die is because of Darwin and his chimp strength. It's here, dangling for their lives, that Eliza finally confesses how she feels, to which Shane reveals that he's been feeling the same. Darwin pulls the three up, where Debbie and Eliza celebrate her confession. The episode ends with a teary goodbye, with the whole Thornberry family seeing Shane off to his plane. Shane gives Eliza a digital camera so she can send him photos, and she gives him some sea glass from the beach that they were on. The last episode ends with a newfound sisterly relationship between the two girls, and Eliza finally having her first romantic feelings for someone. Now, this upcoming movie that I'm about to talk about actually had a huge impact on my life. Every viewer of this next movie in theaters actually receives a scratch and sniff card to scratch off when the number played on the screen. And this actually had a huge impact on me and my family on what movies could actually be. So anyways, in this merging movie between the Thornberrys and the Rugrats, we see just how chaotic things can get. It begins with the Rugrats' perspective. The whole family is supposed to be going on a cruise, but upon arriving at the dock, they realize that Mr. Pickles intentionally made them miss a ship. He then shows them their real beauty that they'll be sailing on instead, which rivals the plank of wood Rose took refuge on the Titanic. Yeah, it's that bad. The family unsurprisingly loses control of their raft and ends up stranded on an island. But ever fret, of course, the Thornberrys are also on this random island. Eliza, being the explorer that she is, ends up finding Rugrats' trusted companion in the middle of the jungle. Spike, their dog, in a panic asks Eliza to help him find his babies. Eliza assumes he means puppies, and she's confused why a wiener dog would be in the jungle in the first place, but she decides to go along with it regardless. She soon finds out that the dog did mean real human babies, and Eliza finds that a leopard is chasing them. Also, the babies somehow stumbled upon Nigel Thornberry, who would normally be the best option to stumble upon. However, he's hit his head on a rock and has suffered from amnesia. He begins acting just as baby-like as they are. Meanwhile, Angelica and Debbie are hitting it off. Angelica tricks Debbie into starting up the convy as she feels responsible for the babies and needs to travel to their location. But whenever Eliza enters the scene and reveals that there's a leopard involved, Angelica panics. She uses the convy's emergency submarine feature and leaves the Thornberry sisters to pursue her search. Little do they know that the babies, with the help of Donnie of course, are doing just as well fending off the leopard, but their chase eventually winds them up in a cave with water in it, where Angelica happily finds them. However, Angelica's driving is so obnoxiously bad that Nigel slams his head too many times. When he wakes up, he is his old self. It should be noted that around this time, the Pickles adults have come across Marianne, and they're all figuring out what the heck is going on. After finding out about the submarines, Stu Pickles does something amazing. He makes a radio out of 2 coconuts. Marianne is amazed. They're able to contact the submarine's location, and with them all working together, they're able to retrieve the sub. The movie ends with a heartfelt reunion, and the two families deciding to go on a real vacation with each other on the cruise that they were supposed to go on in the first place. And with that, we conclude the Wild Thornberries. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future.